CEO of Barnes Development. So a little bit about me, in case you can't see my beautiful face in the back. There's me. I'm also going to University of Colorado Boulder. I'm a senior projects veteran. I took this class last year thinking that I wanted to go into architecture, and about halfway through the year I realized I despise architecture, and I cannot emphasize that enough. I am not passionate about that at all, and I realized very quickly that I wanted to do something more related to engineering when it comes to building stuff. I'm also a member of Technology Student Association. No, that is not airport security. So I've been an active member in that for the past 2 years, and I do a lot of engineering competitions with them. And I'm attending University of Colorado Boulder in the fall to study to be a civil engineer. So my project inspiration and description. So last year with Jenna Goldsmith, I developed 4 different types of houses: a Tuscan, a French, a modern, and a craftsman. For this, I obviously did not enjoy that project, as I'm not doing that anymore. So I decided to go into civil engineering, and by going into civil engineering, I decided to do the site plans for the houses that I created last year, which was a nice little segue into this. So for these civil plans, I decided to do sewage plans, water systems, anything to do with fire hydrants, water valves, all the really sexy stuff about city and municipality. So for my project objectives, my main objective was just to learn how to use AutoCAD Civil 3D. I have had a lot of experience with Revit in the past, as I have taken architectural design in the past. And since they're by the same company, Autodesk, I figured that that would be an easy segue into learning how to use AutoCAD. My second objective was to learn about city codes. City codes throughout the country and the world, for the most part, in developed countries, are very, very, very similar. So by learning the bare bones, I will be well versed in no matter what city code, no matter what city I'll be working in. Excuse me. I also wanted to learn about the more analytical components of civil engineering. Before in the past, when I had heard about civil engineering, to me it was just building roads. And I wanted to learn what goes into building roads, what goes into why we have to build roads the way we do, why bridges have to be reinforced the way they are, things like that. And then I also wanted to determine if civil engineering was a good career fit for me. Like I said last year, I quickly found that architecture was not my passion by any means. So most of my project this year was just figuring out if I had a passion for this, which I found that I do. And then my last objective was to learn about the different things that civil engineers can go to. A lot of people don't know what civil engineering is, but relative to the business world, if you were to get a business degree, that's the same thing as getting a civil engineering degree. It's very broad, it can do a lot of different types of things. So I wanted to look into seeing if there are other components of civil engineering that I maybe wanted to go into, like mining, like infrastructure, or water resources, things like that. So this is my logo. As you can see, it is half of a globe right here, and then half of a gear. I know civil engineers, or a gear probably has a lot of association with things like mechanical engineering rather than civil engineering, but I thought that that provided a nice segue into engineering, and then the other half is a globe, because civil engineering is the type of engineering that has so much to do with the earth around it. I chose to make it in navy blue because navy blue signifies strength and development, which, I mean, development is in the name of my company, so I wanted it to signify development. Expert advisors. My expert advisor is Brad Jones. He's a civil engineer in Frederick, Colorado for Bar Companies, which is a concrete company. At his job, he looks through gravel pits and does water management, takes measurements, makes sure that nobody's stealing groundwater from someone else, things like that. He's also my stepdad. My support advisors, thank you for the ones who did not go to FBLA today, are Kobe Wood, who will help keep me on task, who also failed miserably. I'm sorry, Kobe. Lissa Wood was there for moral support. I often got very sidetracked in my project and very, very, very stressed, as this is something I did not know a lot about, and it's hard for everyone to jump into something that they don't know a lot about, because it's nerve-wracking. So Lissa was really good at helping me with that. Julian Dawkins is a professional spell checker. He's actually certified from Colorado School of Mines, I know. And then Kendall Jones and Dylan Barnes, who are my parents, and they were both there for financial support and moral support. So for my timeline. In the beginning of the year, I was mostly focused on downloading the program. I have had experience with Revit in the past, so I knew how large of a program it was going to be to download. Kobe and Lissa can vouch for this, that at one point it said it was going to take 3.5 years to download. Thank goodness that wasn't true, but there were a lot of problems with that, so I was very stressed with getting the program actually onto my computer, which took a little while. And then also I was working with YouTube tutorials to actually teach myself how to use this program. I severely underestimated how much work it would take to learn this program. Just because it was made by the same maker did not at all mean it was as easy to use as Revit. Like I said, I have a lot of experience with Revit in the past. It was nothing the same. You can't just go in and draw lines like you do in Revit. You have to build everything off of something else. So pretty much all of September, I was doing these YouTube tutorials, trying to teach myself how to do this, trying to teach myself the components necessary for a site plan, trying to teach myself really anything that I could possibly fathom doing during this project. Throughout the rest of September, I continued with my YouTube tutorials, and I also used another book that came as kind of like a manual to the program. It's called A Practical Guide to AutoCAD Civil 3D. That book ended up being really useful compared to the YouTube tutorials because unlike the YouTube tutorials, it explained why I did everything I did, so it was very helpful. And then at the end of September, I worked on my project proposal presentation. And then in October, the very beginning of October, we were all looking at our own initial project proposal presentations. And then after that, I just continued with my tutorials. Highlighted in black is the job shadow. While I did get that done, it did end up being delayed to December just because weather did not permit it. Throughout October, I just continued with the YouTube tutorials, trying to teach myself how to use these programs. Like I said, I had no idea what I was doing, but thanks to my advisor, my YouTube tutorials, and my book, I was able to figure it out. Highlighted in white, are all things that I had to ask for my project. After talking with my advisor, we kind of established that I really didn't have any need to do any sort of grading in my site plan. It was a relatively flat lot that I chose, not to mention all the surveying had already been completed on it, so grading wasn't necessary for my project, but unfortunately time did not permit for me to continue with these tutorials, so I just decided to exit. So in December, again in white is everything to do with grading. I just continued with my other tutorials, trying to immerse myself in the rest of the program. And then the 5th and the 7th, I did the job shadow write-up. I went to Frederick, Colorado with my advisor, and he took me through his work and what he does. We did measurements together, and it was a really great insight into what a civil engineer does. Same in December, I continued with the job shadow write-up and really just making sure I understood exactly what was going on in the job shadow. January, I began to start adding sewage systems and water systems. I did not anticipate this being as difficult as it was. While I did understand the commands and everything to do in AutoCAD Civil 3D, it was not necessarily easy to do when I was trying to apply it. I understood what I needed to do, but when you're actually on the computer trying to do the commands, it doesn't necessarily cooperate with you. I mean, it's just silly things like, for example, I would constantly press enter at the wrong time, and then I'd have to delete the entire line. And it was very frustrating, but it's fine. In January, I continued finishing the sewage system and water supply system. This pretty much just included adding a sewer line to the cul-de-sac that I built, and then I also had to install fire hydrants, a manhole, and then put valves along the exterior street so that if water needed to be shut off, you wouldn't have to shut off all the water. So February, I decided to put roads into the site plan. The roads were actually a little bit more difficult than I anticipated. It's not like a lot of other programs where you can just go in, draw a line, okay, there's your road. No, you have to go through, you have to look at city codes, you have to make sure everything's the correct width. Because even just, between city to city, there will be a foot difference, and that was a problem. Not to mention, I kept drawing the center line on the edge, so it would be, say, 5 feet offset to the right. And then in March, I started reviewing my site plans with my advisor, and then began looking at any new additions that I might need to do and trying to become more well-versed in the city codes, just to educate myself. And then in April, I finalized the site plans, started taking screenshots, and then putting everything into this lovely presentation development. So for my research, 90% of my research was looking at different CAD programs and drawings. Like I said before, I have never, ever, ever worked on AutoCAD Civil 3D and have limited experience with AutoCAD, but I have a lot of experience with Revit. Most of my research, probably 5 months out of the year, was just looking at how to work with the program, what I was doing, why I was doing it, things like that. I also wanted to look at what civil engineers do. Like I said, that's what I plan to pursue in the future, but I do want to look into finding maybe a niche of that, such as maybe water management, infrastructure, anything of that sort. And then I was also looking at different available sites for my presentation, for my plans. Excuse me. There were several different plots of lands that I had looked at during my job shadow, which had already been surveyed and were flat and were in a good location. Though they were technically zoned for commercial use for the purpose of my project, they were going to work. Ultimately, in the end, I went with the flat plot of land because not only was it flat, it had already been surveyed, it was off of a main street, but not too big of a main street, which was really nice. And then I also was researching the Weld County and Firestone municipal codes. Like I said before, it's very important if I want to go into civil engineering, I need to be well versed in city codes. And while it's not the most exciting thing in the world, if you know one city code, chances are you're going to know all of them, because all of them are so similar. And then, like I said, I was working on using AutoCAD to Civil 3D. And then another part of my project that I wanted to implement but didn't get a chance to, all my files from last year have been created in something called Revit, which is an architecture and design program, as many of you know. However, I thought that since they were both by the same company, I'd be able to transfer some of the Revit files into AutoCAD Civil 3D or vice versa. Unfortunately, that was not possible, but I'll get into that later. Okay, so here's where my actual lot is. Originally, my job shadow had been around in this area. I had looked at a flume up here, which is just a part of moving water around to make sure nothing floods. This is I-25 right here, so it's right off of the highway, and then this is Firestone Boulevard. It's in Firestone, Frederick, Colorado, so it's pretty far north, but it's a fast-growing area. And then this right here is ultimately where I decided to put my cul-de-sac, so it'll be extending into this little area right here. So this is my where I started initially for my Civil 3D. This is an extremely zoomed in version of what I have. Civil 3D is actually a really neat program where you can get what's called real plans. So everything that you're seeing here, all these squiggly lines and all these roads, these are all really in Firestone, Colorado right now. Another civil engineer has already done all the plans for these roads right here, and I was able to extend off of them because of that. So I just made a copy of it and then kept editing on it to it. As you can see in these boxes here, this is where I was going to make my 4 houses. So this circles the cul-de-sac, and then 4 houses surrounding it. So as you can see here, this is some of my progress. This is the first center line in the road that I have right here. And then the orange and blue lines signify either sidewalks, gutters, things like that. Also with the lots, my original lots were only 50 feet by 60 feet. However, again, because of city codes, I had to add another 25 feet onto the back and at least another 20 feet, or excuse me, another 25 feet onto the front and at least another 20 feet onto the back to allow for driveway space, parking space, things like that. So this is my project even further along. I know it's difficult to see, but these white lines right here, this is a manhole in the middle of the street so that if the city needed to go in and do work or something, they'd go to the end of the cul-de-sac and they could just jump down there and do work. Same thing with this little dot right here. This is a fire hydrant. As you can probably see in, like, for example, in the farm right now, they're doing water flushing. So fire hydrants aren't only necessary for safety functions, but you have to have fire hydrants there so you can flush your water system, because water builds up as sediment into the pipes and it can get dangerous as there's excessive chlorine and other sediment. So in case you can't see it in black, this is the rest of the site plan. This is what, if I were to theoretically submit this, this is what I would submit. This is more of an official drawing. I'm not sure if you can see it up here, but there also are a couple of bow tie shaped things that I put in. Those are called valves. So the main water system runs all the way through here for the city. So I installed 2 valves here. So once I install them, if they were to shut it off on either side, they could shut off the water for the cul-de-sac. So that way, if they had to shut off water, say right here, it wouldn't shut off the water for the entire cul-de-sac. It's kind of like puzzle pieces. If you take one, not all of it falls apart. So my roadblocks. Very similar to last year, I had a lot of trouble with AutoCAD Civil 3D. For any of you who know me, you know I despise Revit, and I despise any architecture software. But I figured since I was going into AutoCAD Civil 3D, I might like it a little bit more. And while I did like it more, it was still extremely difficult to use, and I really struggled with it. Like I said before, I kept being ready to jump the gun. I would press enter before I'm ready to press enter, and then I had to start the entire line over. And that got to be very frustrating because what turned into a 20-minute process turned into an hour process. And then, not to mention, civil engineering, it's not necessarily like SolidWorks. You don't need an advanced engineering degree to understand it. Like I said, a lot of my peers in here, yes, you are all very good, so I'm not trying to say that, but you all understand SolidWorks and you all know how to work it. That's not the case with Civil 3D. There's no classes here that really provide me with any sort of education in this, so I had to rely heavily on my advisor to teach me all these things. I don't have a college degree, I don't have a master's and a PE license in civil engineering, so I really needed my advisor Brad to hold my hand through the entire process. And then I also was having trouble with getting my plans into an exact location. Like I said before, all plans are what they call live. So the latitude and longitude are really there. All those roads are really there. However, I kept accidentally offsetting it like 0.03 feet. So everything I wanted to build was 0.03 feet to the left. And I couldn't figure out why I was doing that, but then I figured out I had just offset it incorrectly. So that was a really big roadblock, but it should not have been. And then Revit never was able to cooperate with me with AutoCAD Civil 3D. Like I said, I had really hoped I would have been able to do that so that my site plan perhaps is a little bit more flashy or a little bit more visual. However, I wasn't able to do that because unfortunately when I did the Revit plans, they were all in Revit 2018, and I downloaded AutoCAD Civil 3D in 2019. So because of that, the versions were not compatible, and there were a lot of objects that were not able to transfer over that needed to transfer over. So because of that, I was just unable to do that. So for the summary, pretty much all I put to my site plan were sewage plans, water plans, center lines for the roads, sidewalks, gutters, fire hydrants, manhole covers, and water valves. Are there any questions?
So you mentioned that another engineer already put in the actual parts. Is that like the entire country is in this piece of software?
Yes, it is definitely applicable to the entire country. You know, I can vouch to say that every single civil engineer in the country does this, but it does work like that to some extent.
So I guess my question to you is the architectural piece. What from last year? What was it that just really drove you nuts? Was it the software? Is it just that?
That drove me away from architecture?
Yeah. Just what could have pushed you away? Because it happens. What was the reasoning?
I think really more than anything, it's just that I'm much more interested in math than I am in design.
Right.
I mean, civil engineering, it has the design component. I love working on CAD programs. I really do. So that's why I wanted to go into architecture, but I really do think that I enjoy the mathematical component and the analytical components more than anything.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.